Good morning, everyone. I'm Angie Jones. I'm VP of Engineering at Block, and I focus on AI tools and enablement. So we've been hearing a lot about MCP this year, yes? Okay, today I'm going to share, I want to go beyond the theoretical and the what can be, and I want to share how we have actually scaled MCP across our entire 12,000 person company in 2 months. So our engineers have been pretty good about using AI coding generation tools like GitHub Copilot, for example. And one of our principal machine learning engineers, Bradley Axon, he set out to create a tool that would go beyond the IDE and could help automate some complex development tasks. So Brad started tinkering on a development agent that could actually do things, not just generate code snippets. And this was before LLMs even supported function calling. So as you can imagine, this was a really difficult task. But once OpenAI introduced these capabilities, everything changed. So Brad and a small team of volunteers around the company, they began experimenting with using tool calls to automate parts of the development workflow. And while this definitely made things more feasible, we quickly realized that without a standard, creating integrations for all of these various APIs would be almost impossible to scale. So we started working on a protocol, and we shared it with our friends over at Anthropic, who let us know that they were working on something similar, MCP. We loved it, we aligned with it immediately, and we became a launch partner. For those of you not familiar with MCP, it's an open standard that allows AI agents to connect with various APIs or tools or data sources. So this was perfect. This is exactly what we needed. So we rewrote our agent, Goose, as an extensible MCP client. Now, initially, we designed Goose for our internal engineers, and we added a few built-in MCP servers, things like Git, JetBrains, memory, a computer controller. 75% of our engineers who use Goose were saving about 8 to 10 hours a week just offloading their busy work to Goose. Within a month, adoption doubled. And this was without a formal rollout campaign. People just saw other engineers using Goose, and they wanted to try it out as well. And as more use cases emerge, the weekly engagement grew by 50%. So with all of these efficiency gains, we decided to open source Goose. The public release was really well received. In addition to coverage in major tech publications, Goose also was trending on Twitter and reached #1 on GitHub trending. And with all of this buzz, our internal non-engineering team started asking, well, wait, what about us? You know, can Goose help us too? So seeing the engineering efficiencies, of course, we wanted all of our employees to be able to move at this pace. That's when we realized that Goose couldn't just be a developer agent. It needed to be a general purpose agent that anyone in the company could use regardless of their technical background. Now, while we were assessing this, our employees, they just couldn't wait for us. They really wanted to get their hands dirty, so they just started using Goose as is, and all of a sudden, we had sales, legal, marketing, finance, design, product, customer success, our executive assistants, everyone in the company was trying to use Goose. And naturally, they ran into a few challenges. So the first challenge was with missing MCP servers. Remember that we built this as a developer-centric agent, so we built developer-centric MCP servers because that was our target audience. Now, all of a sudden, people wanted MCPs for other tools like Snowflake and Jira, Google Workspace, right? They wanted to be able to interact with their email and their calendar and their Google Drive. So they were out here in the Wild Wild West, like the rest of us, trying to find MCP servers that would meet their needs. Once they did find an MCP server, they'd run into a challenge installing them. What the heck is MPX, right? Where do I put this command? And even if they happen to figure that part out, then they'd be prompted for things like API keys, which was a foreign concept for a lot of them. So it was clear that we needed to pause and we needed to rethink the experience if we wanted everyone to benefit. So how do you make an agent work for 12,000 employees across every function? This is how we did it. So before we even rolled Goose out, there were a couple of things that we just accidentally got right. These were choices that were made for developers that just happened to be perfect for everyone else as well. For example, the alpha version of Goose was CLI only. But when we rebuilt it as an MCP client, we had both the CLI but also a desktop app. And that was originally for just developer preference, but this ended up completely unlocking access for non-engineers. Had we not done this, this would have excluded most of the company without even meaning to. Also, Goose is LLM agnostic, so it isn't tied to just one model. And that flexibility turned out to be really critical because while models like Claude are perfect for engineering tasks, other models like GPT-1s are better for general purpose tasks. So internally, we use Databricks as our model host, and we allow employees to choose from OpenAI, from Anthropic, from Google, from Meta providers. And this gives people that power to choose, which makes adoption much easier across the various disciplines. What we really love about this approach is that it balances that optionality with control, right? So we only expose models that perform well on our Goose benchmarks. And when a new model hits that bar, we can just flip a switch and release it to the entire company. We also pre-select a recommended model, which is the one that is consistently scoring 100 on those benchmark tests. But say that there's like an outage or something with a model, we can very easily just switch everyone to a comparable one, usually before employees even notice. So those are the things that we got right, but of course, there's plenty of things that didn't scale so gracefully. For example, we thought that installing Goose was dead simple, right? You download a zip file, unzip it, drag it to your applications folder, you're done. But for employees who are not tech savvy, even that caused a bit of friction, right? Some people never unzipped the file. Others didn't move it to the right folder, right? No one kept it updated, which meant that they were running into bugs that we had already fixed. So we changed course here and we added Goose to our internal managed software center, and now it's auto-installed and auto-updated across the company. So if you have a Block laptop, you have Goose and it just works. The next big hurdle was getting everyone those MCP servers that they needed. So running MPX commands for code that you don't understand, that's a security risk, especially for folks that are outside of engineering. So it wasn't safe to ask non-engineers to go pull servers off the internet and install them locally. So we spun up a small task team to build internal servers that people needed. So they moved fast, they learned a lot, they even developed the playbook. That's a talk for another day, but the timing was perfect. This all happened right around our internal hack week. So this made space for other engineers who were curious about MCP to jump in and help. By the end of that week, we had over 60 internal MCP servers ready to go, And today we're over 100 of those. And all of them are bundled with our internal Goose by default. So no one has to install anything. They can just toggle on what they need. So we don't really use external servers now. Even if one exists, we recreate it internally. And this isn't because we don't trust the open source servers, but more so we need full control over auth and versioning. For those who don't know, Block is a fintech company. We make Square and Cash App, Afterpay, right? And so we deal with a lot of regulations. We have to be very secure, and so that's why we just kind of build everything ourselves. One of my favorite moments from this phase was when someone vibe coded her own MCP server, and she asked us, where should I put this? And we gave her the GitHub link, and she says, oh, I don't have a GitHub account. I'm not a developer. I thought that was amazing. This was a non-engineer who was able to use these tools to build something that she needed. So everyone is a builder now. Now, even though we have 100 MCP servers, for folks, it's still not enough. Every day someone is asking us for a new one, and sometimes they'll still go out there in the Wild Wild West looking for what they need. And as you can imagine, this freaks out our InfoSec team. So to keep things secure, our internal Goose also includes an allow list. So if someone tries to install a server that is not pre-approved, Goose will block that install. And so this is a simple but effective safeguard that just helps keep our employees secure. So now we have Goose automatically installed, 100 plus MCP servers. What could possibly go wrong? The context window. So employees were enabling all of their extensions, you know, just in case I happen to need them. And with so many tools enabled, Goose was sending every server's tool definitions with every prompt. And that, of course, slowed down the response times if you got a response at all. And then depending on the model, all of that noise could eat up the entire context window. Sometimes people would get an error before they would even get a chance to type a prompt. So we had to make Goose smarter. We added dynamic context management that enables and disables MCP servers based on what the user is asking for. For example, if someone wants to pull tasks from Asana and add them to their calendar or something, Goose is going to automatically enable Asana and Google Calendar MCP servers and turn everything else off. And that change alone saved a ton of context space. But people love a lengthy conversation. So we couldn't stop there. We also had to build a context summarizer. And so once a conversation gets close to the limit, Goose is going to automatically summarize what's happened so far and then continue the session with that summary in place. Just recently, we added a little progress bar as well so users can see when they're getting close to that limit. The next hurdle that we desperately had to overcome was authentication. So for non-engineers, being prompted for API keys, tokens, scopes, all of this is way too overwhelming, we found. So they were getting stuck on the OAuth approval flows, which caused frustration and also a lot of help requests. So today, all of our internal MCP servers are set up to use OAuth with short-lived credentials, and they're integrated directly with our identity provider. So there's no need for anyone to manage API keys or copy tokens out of a dashboard or anything like that. So when someone toggles on a server that requires auth, they're going to be prompted with the SSO flow in the browser. They sign in with their block credentials, approve the access, and that's it. So this is quick, it's secure, and more importantly, this is a flow that's already familiar to them. So solving the technical challenges was one thing, but helping people actually use Goose and MCP was another. So we set up 2 dedicated Slack channels to support Goose internally. One is a place where people can ask questions. They can report bugs. They can request features or just, get unstuck in real time. And everyone just kind of pitches in here. We don't have dedicated like customer support to this. So engineers who work on Goose or power users will jump in and just kind of help people out. I can't overemphasize how critical this has been to adoption, especially for our non-tech users. The other Slack channel is for inspiration, right? It's a space where employees can drop their success stories of cool workflows or clever prompts that they come up with or wild things that the agent was able to pull off. So this channel quickly became one of the best organic drivers of adoption. People scroll through, they see what others are doing, they immediately want to try it out themselves. And when you see a sales guy with zero tech background, vibe code, a functional app that or a feature that solves his customers' pain points, you have no choice but to stand, okay? I'm sorry, Chris. So while Slack gave people a place to connect, we knew that we needed education as well. So we set up internal developer relations effort where every week we host brown bag sessions, workshops, office hours focused on AI enablement. And these are open to everyone across the company. So for those that are brand new to AI, we cover basic topics like prompting techniques, and then we also offer sessions on what you can do with these various MCP servers that are bundled with Goose, in addition to new features. Our DevRel team also tailored workshops for specific teams. So if they needed to figure out, hey, what can I automate with AI? What would be good use cases? Then we would send a team to work with them to figure that out. And then finally, we offer office hours where people can come in, they can get help, troubleshoot issues and stuff like that. So basically, it's education and enablement, and this has been a huge unlock for us. So here are a few impactful ways that we've seen employees use MCP. We use Snowflake as our cloud data platform, and by connecting Goose to a Snowflake MCP, employees can query that data using natural language instead of writing SQL. So one employee used this MCP to detect fraud by spotting suspicious patterns in transaction history. An employee needed to analyze a data set of over 80,000 sales leads and figure out how to distribute them across different sales programs. Using Goose with the Databricks MCP, she accessed the lead data, refined her logic in plain language, and landed on a clear recommendation that was backed by data. So this would have taken her days of manual analysis. This took just 1 hour. And in her own words, this is so helpful, I could cry. Our PagerDuty MCP is also a fan favorite. So when you're paged, you're usually in firefighting mode, right? You're focused on fixing that one issue at that moment. So it's rare to even have the time or the headspace to zoom out and be able to look at this and detect patterns that could be leading to these outages. So an employee used this MCP to analyze incident data and was able to identify the top recurring issues that were actually triggering alerts. With that bird's eye view, they were able to make actions that led to eliminating the root cause and making the systems more reliable. And we're seeing all sort of powerful use cases across design and customer service, project management, and of course, engineering as well. So seeing what people were building with Goose was inspiring, but it also showed us where the experience needed to evolve. So we started adding features to support the way people actually wanted to work. So employees were automating tasks that weren't just useful for them, but they would love to share this with their team, their colleagues, but there was no way to share those workflows. So we built a recipe feature that packages up the MCP servers that you use for that session, as well as user prompts, maybe a little system prompt, and these became mini agents that you can reuse and you can also share with other people. They can launch it with a single click. Non-engineers, they use Goose to vibe code prototypes and internal tools, but these were stuck on their laptops, right? They wanted to share these applications with other employees, but they didn't know how to deploy an application. So we created an MCP that will deploy static web apps, and this gives people direct path from idea to a deployed app with no infra tickets required. And then being able to work with everyday tools is great, but there were frequent questions about how to use Goose to do things like navigate internal processes like procurement or compliance, onboarding, right? Things that traditionally require that tribal knowledge or a wild goose chase in Google Drive or Slack. So we developed an MCP server for Glean, which specializes in searching enterprise data. And this one helped me out not long ago when I needed to quickly pay to sponsor an event or a hackathon, and I didn't have time to go through, y'all know those lengthy procurement processes. I didn't have time to go through this. The event was next week. And so I asked Goose, how can I get this done? I'm on a timeline. And I swear it felt like Goose whispered in my ear, like, lean in. Let me tell you, you're gonna hit this guy up. You want me to just do it for you? Okay, I got you. And Goose handled that for me. So MCP is helping thousands of employees across Block work smarter, work faster, and more autonomously. And while most of the buzz that we're seeing in the industry is from developers, we've scaled MCP across more than 15 job functions. So within only a few months, we've learned how to scale AI responsibly and, more importantly, inclusively. So this isn't a side project anymore. It's not an indie experiment. Block is putting MCP into practice at scale and shaping what this can look like for enterprise companies. Thank you so much.